Viewer discretion is advised before we begin. The following content is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the word-for-word federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, reported by trustworthy individuals present during the proceedings. What do you do when those you believed would always have your back turn away in your darkest hour? When your own children decide that loyalty can go only so far? That's exactly what unfolded just moments ago. Diddy's twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah Combs, refused to speak in his defense, triggering a visible panic attack in court. No one saw it coming. The courtroom felt like it froze. All eyes turned to the defense attorney, who announced that key witnesses had backed out. Shocked, gasps filled the room. Even the judge paused. There was no warning, no formal note. Just Diddy clutching his chest, breathing short and fast, stunned by his daughter's abandonment. Up until then, Diddy had kept calm through the entire trial. But something cracked. Maybe it was seeing the girls sitting away in the gallery, not at the defense's side. Maybe it hit him that even blood ties have limits, and he'd crossed them. Maybe it was realizing that the image he'd crafted of the doting father had shattered in the most public way imaginable. Whatever it was, Diddy stopped performing. He wasn't a superstar anymore. Just a dad watching his daughters make a choice of conscience. And when the defense team stated they'd be revising their witness list due to unexpected family developments, the room wasn't ready for what Diddy's reaction revealed. The collapse of trust, the magnitude of the evidence, the loneliness of a man once shielded by loyal kin. It wasn't just dramatic, it was a warning. If this story grabs your attention, hit that like button and subscribe for more breaking updates and deep dives into headline-making trials like this one. I'm reporting from outside the federal courthouse, where one of the most intimate betrayals in recent legal memory just unfolded. The atmosphere is thick with shock as journalists rush to piece together what happened inside. The morning started like every other day of the trial. Whispered conversations filled the courtroom. Reporters hunched over notebooks in their reserved section. Legal teams murmured quietly while preparing to call character witnesses for Diddy's defense. But everything changed when attorney Marcus Bennett approached the bench with a worried look. Silence fell. Some figured it was a simple procedural request. Others assumed a delay. But the way Diddy stiffened in his seat, eyes darting to the back of the courtroom where his daughters sat, said this was something else. The judge raised an eyebrow. Diddy, who had masked nerves with swagger until now, looked like a man watching his last hope fade. He gripped the table tightly, knuckles turning white. He didn't look at anyone, not even his attorneys scrambling over their notes. "Your Honor, we need to approach the bench regarding a change in our witness schedule," Bennett said, voice unusually unsure. After a short private discussion, the judge gave a solemn nod. Bennett returned to his table, and from that point on, the trial turned. This wasn't a legal maneuver. It was a moral decision, years in the making. Bennett addressed the court with a composed tone. Due to unexpected changes, the defense must alter its witness list. Jessie and Delilah Combs will not be appearing as originally planned. All eyes shifted toward the back where the 17-year-old girls sat, faces calm but firm. They didn't glance at their father. Their eyes stayed locked forward. Outside, the crowd of fans and press had no idea that Diddy's most devastating setback hadn't come from prosecutors, but from his own children. As the consequences of their absence hit home, Diddy reacted instantly and alarmingly. His breath grew erratic, his hand tugging at his tie like it was suffocating him. For the first time in the trial, the polished mask of the confident music mogul fully crumbled. To grasp how crucial the girl's decision was, you need to understand how Diddy built his public identity around fatherhood. For years, Sean Diddy Combs portrayed himself as a dedicated dad to 6 kids from different relationships. His social media was a highlight reel of family, extravagant birthday parties, graduations, luxury vacations. Jessie and Delilah, born in 2006 to Diddy and model Kim Porter, featured prominently in this curated image. After Porter's untimely passing in 2018, Diddy often talked publicly about his promise to raise their children with full commitment. "I'm now a full-time dad," he told the press. "It's a role I take seriously, a vow I made to Kim." This caring dad persona softened his business tycoon reputation. The twins joined him at red carpet events on Instagram and in well-crafted family moments that won media sympathy. So when legal troubles started to build, the defense leaned into that image, a man whose character would be validated by his kids. Court filings confirmed the twins were set to be major character witnesses, offering insight into Diddy as a grieving, hands-on father. They'd speak on his role at home, his presence at school functions, and the advice he gave them. But as the case progressed and the evidence piled up, something shifted. Sources close to the family described rising friction between Diddy and the girls. Now 17, with their own emerging beliefs and independence, the twins began to question what they'd always believed about their father. According to insiders, the breaking point came after a damaging testimony from a former colleague whose account clashed with stories Diddy had shared with his daughters. The girls were in court that day, and witnesses say they left visibly shaken. They were raised believing one version of their father, a family friend told reporters. Hearing that story gets challenged with hard proof hits them hard. The night before their scheduled testimony, they reportedly had a long emotional talk with their godmother, a close confidant of their late mother. The contents remain private, but by morning their lawyer informed the defense. Jesse and Delilah wouldn't testify. Defense attorney Bennett tried to convince them otherwise, emphasizing how crucial their voices were. But the twins' answer was firm. "We can't say things we no longer believe." This wasn't a teen rebellion. It was a mature, agonizing decision, weighing loyalty to family against their own sense of truth. For days, those observing the trial saw signs of their emotional struggle. That morning, instead of sitting behind the defense table, the girls took seats at the back, a visible symbol of the emotional rift. When Bennett informed the judge of the change, the twins sat upright, composed, though their tightly clasped hands hinted at the storm within. In their minds, this wasn't betrayal. It was refusing to support a story they no longer trusted. For Diddy, their public withdrawal wasn't just painful. It was devastating. It stripped away the fatherly persona he'd spent years building. Right in front of the jury, they were supposed to be the heart of his defense. That morning, Bennett had planned to rise and say, "The defense calls Jesse and Delilah Combs." It would have been a powerful moment, twin daughters stepping up to humanize their father. Instead, Bennett stood before the court with unease. "Your Honor," he said, "we've amended our witness list. Jesse and Delilah Combs will not be called at this time." The judge peered over her glasses. "Counselor, those two witnesses were central to your defense strategy. May I ask the reason for this change?" Bennett cleared his throat. "They are unavailable, Your Honor." Prosecutor Sarah Mitchell stood up instantly. "Your Honor, the witnesses are clearly in the courtroom. If they've been removed, the jury deserves an explanation." The judge turned to Bennett. He hesitated. "Your Honor, Miss Jessie and Miss Delilah Combs have chosen not to testify. They were voluntary character witnesses, not under subpoena. We must honor their decision." That admission sent ripples through the gallery. Diddy, who'd been leaning toward his attorney to whisper something, froze, stunned. Then came something more alarming: physical distress. The prosecutor pressed on. "Your Honor, given their previous role as key character witnesses, this development is extremely relevant." The judge nodded. "Mr. Bennett, did you consider alternatives? A deposition or sworn statement, perhaps?" Bennett's reply said it all. "We explored those routes, Your Honor. They declined any form of participation." As this discussion continued, Diddy's condition visibly worsened. His breathing grew heavy. He loosened his collar. His glass of water trembled in his grip. The judge noticed. "Mr. Bennett, does your client require medical assistance?" Before Bennett could answer, Diddy stood suddenly, unsteady. "I need to talk to my daughters," he said, voice breaking. "Please, just give me 5 minutes." The judge firmly replied, "Mr. Combs, please sit. This is not the time for—" They don't understand, Diddy cut in, a major breach of courtroom conduct that showed how far gone his control was. They've heard things out of context. I have to explain. Mr. Combs, the judge snapped, sit down now or you will be removed. As bailiffs approached, Diddy slumped back into his seat, eyes fixed on his daughters. They sat motionless, gazes locked forward, refusing to meet his stare. The judge ordered a 15-minute recess. Court officers led Diddy to a side chamber where a medic checked his vitals. During the break, sources saw the twins meeting privately with their godmother and a family lawyer, their youthful faces heavy with the emotional burden of their choice. When proceedings resumed, Diddy had regained some physical control, though he looked pale and shaken. The girls returned to their seats, still separate, still distant. Bennett approached the bench once more. Your Honor, the defense is ready to call our next witness, Mr. James Reynolds. The person who stepped in as a character witness wasn't a family member but a longtime colleague, and by then, the damage had already been done. The empty seats where Diddy's daughters were expected to defend him spoke volumes to the jury. As Reynolds gave his account of Diddy's professional success and philanthropic efforts, many noticed that the music mogul appeared disengaged. His attention repeatedly drifted toward the back of the room, to the very daughters whose silence now echoed louder than any supportive testimony. Their decision to step back as witnesses hadn't occurred in a vacuum. As the case progressed, testimony and evidence revealed a consistent theme. Diddy wasn't just an exacting professional, but someone deeply obsessed with maintaining control in every aspect of life. That afternoon, while the defense attempted to regain footing after the morning's blow, the issue of control surfaced again during the prosecutor's cross-examination of Reynolds, the replacement witness. Mr. Reynolds, Mitchell began, you've spoken about Mr. Combs's business discipline and generosity. In your experience, how does he react when someone disagrees with him or denies his requests? Reynolds shifted uneasily. Sean's very specific about how things should be. He keeps his standards high. High standards? Mitchell echoed. Would you say he demands total loyalty and obedience from those around him? Objection. Leading, Bennett interrupted. Sustained, the judge ruled. Mitchell rephrased, from your viewpoint, how does Mr. Combs behave when others don't meet his expectations? Reynolds paused before responding. He gets disappointed, and can express that disappointment quite forcefully. Forcefully? Mitchell pressed. Could you give the jury an example? Reynolds then recounted an incident where a director on a music video was publicly humiliated for straying from Diddy's concept. The parallels with that morning's courtroom drama were hard to miss. This was a man who controlled his surroundings and the people within them, including perhaps his own children's narrative. Throughout the proceedings, witnesses described Diddy's need to micromanage every detail of his brand, how he looked, who surrounded him, and even how they behaved. Former staff spoke of strict confidentiality agreements, phones being confiscated at meetings, and serious repercussions for noncompliance. There was a system, one ex-assistant had said earlier. Everything had to match his vision and follow his rules. No room for deviation. The portrait drawn was of someone meticulously curating his public and private worlds. His social media showed him as a loving, hands-on father, a deliberate image crafted to align with his ideal. But his daughters stepping away from the stand broke that illusion. For the first time, Diddy lost control of his own family's story. During a short afternoon recess, reporters caught sight of a tense interaction between Diddy and Bennett. Though their words weren't audible, their gestures said plenty. Diddy motioned toward the daughters. Bennett shook his head decisively. When court reconvened, Bennett approached the bench for yet another sidebar. His somber return confirmed what many feared. There would be no last-minute shift. The twins weren't changing their minds. As the defense carried on with testimony, highlighting Diddy's business ventures and donations, the defendant seemed increasingly detached. The laser-focused attention that helped him build his empire was gone. He seemed adrift, repeatedly glancing toward his daughters, whose expressions remained composed but distant. The courtroom was witnessing something far more personal than a legal defense unraveling. It was watching a family fracture play out. Live. The daughter's refusal to participate wasn't just a legal strategy, it was a moral stand. And for the jury, this scene offered insights more potent than any evidence. Their silent presence in the audience, rather than at the stand, had a weight that no words could match. As the day wound down, the final defense witness, a veteran business associate, testified about Diddy's drive to uplift Black-owned enterprises. The testimony was credible but lacked the emotional resonance the defense had clearly hoped the daughters would bring. During the final break before closing statements, chaos unfolded in the courthouse hallway. Witnesses described a dramatic moment, Diddy's emotional collapse. As the twins prepared to leave with their attorney and godmother, Diddy intercepted them. Security hovered nearby. "Please," he pleaded, voice stripped of its usual authority. "Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Their godmother stepped in. "Now's not the time," she said firmly. "They've made their choice." "They're my daughters," Diddy said, voice rising. "They don't understand what's at stake." It was Delilah who responded first, softly but firmly. "We know exactly what's at stake. That's why we can't do this." Jesse followed. "We love you, Dad. But we can't lie. Not after what we've heard." As Diddy's face clouded with emotion and tension grew, security stepped closer. Then came the outburst. "Your mother would have never allowed this." But the reply didn't come from the girls. It came from their godmother. Steel in her heart. "Don't you dare bring Kim into this. She would have shielded these girls, even from you." This exchange, heard and seen by several members of the press and court attendees, marked what many described as the collapse of Diddy's defense and of the family image he had fought to preserve. When the session resumed, the shift in Diddy was unmistakable. The confident demeanor vanished. The strategic whispering to lawyers stopped. He sat rigid, staring ahead, a man confronting the boundaries of his own power. Bennett gave his final argument, a technically solid but emotionally empty appeal about Diddy's legacy and influence. What was supposed to be a stirring defense, punctuated by his daughter's support, had become a listless summary of past accomplishments. Throughout Bennett's remarks, Diddy remained eerily passive. No nods, no reactions, none of the signs attorneys count on to connect with jurors. He seemed hollowed out, processing a deeply personal rejection. As the judge announced that the prosecution would present their summation the next day, the twins stood and exited without looking back. Diddy's eyes followed them, his expression blank. Then, in a moment sketched and later splashed across front pages, he dropped his head into his hands in total despair. This wasn't about courtroom tactics. It was the reaction of a man grappling with the loss of something far greater than a legal case, the faith and support of his children. As the courtroom cleared, legal experts reevaluated the case's outlook. The daughter's refusal to testify wasn't just a blow to the defense. It became, in the words of one analyst, the most devastating character testimony imaginable, delivered without saying a word. The next morning, the courtroom overflowed. Word had spread of the daughter's silent stand, sparking speculation about the effect on the jury and the family. When Diddy entered, even casual observers noticed the transformation. His designer suit looked ill-fitted, grooming neglected, his stride slow and uncertain. Most surprising of all, his entourage was gone. A man once surrounded now walked in flanked only by his lawyers. The alienation that began with his daughters seemed to have expanded, leaving him publicly isolated. When the twins entered, they sat even farther back this time, flanked by their godmother and Kim Porter's mother, their grandmother, who'd flown in overnight to support their decision. As Mitchell stood to deliver the prosecution's closing, the air in the courtroom was thick with tension. She walked deliberately to the jury, her expression somber. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "you've heard a great deal about Mr. Combs, his deals, his drive, his empire. But as the evidence has also shown, those achievements came with intimidation and tight control. Pacing slowly, she continued, "The defense wants you to see Mr. Combs as a cultural icon, a generous man and a devoted father. They offered witnesses to support that." She paused, scanning the courtroom. "But what you saw yesterday didn't come from the stand. It came from action." Bennett shot up. "Objection. Counsel's referencing matters not in evidence." Mitchell countered, "These are events observed in court, directly related to character testimony the defense itself intended to present." After a brief sidebar, the judge ruled, "Objection overruled, but proceed with caution." Mitchell nodded. From day one, the defense made character central to this case. They promised a father whose children would speak to his integrity. Yet, after witnessing this trial, those children chose silence. That decision speaks volumes. "Objection. Speculation on witness motivation," Bennett interrupted. "Sustained," said the judge. "Jury will disregard commentary on motive." Mitchell continued, "What's not speculation is this. Actions can often reveal who we truly are more than words ever could. You've heard how Mr. Combs responds when people don't comply, with pushback, with consequences, with efforts to set an example. And yesterday, when his own daughters refused to comply, we all saw his response, not calculated, not measured, but raw. That moment said more than any testimony could." As she laid out the prosecution's final points, tying each back to the charges, Diddy's condition worsened. His breathing became shallow, his complexion pale. Midway through, he suddenly stood, looking unsteady. "Your Honor," Bennett said urgently, "my client needs a recess." The judge looked concerned. "Mr. Combs, are you all right?" But Diddy didn't respond. He was staring at his daughters. "I did all this for you," he said, his voice loud in the now silent room. "Everything I did was to give you a future." Court officers moved quickly as Bennett tried to guide him back to his seat. The twins didn't flinch, faces locked in pain and resolve. "Mr. Combs, sit down or be removed," the judge warned. But Diddy turned to the jury. "They don't get it," he cried. "I built this for them, everything!" As officers reached him, his knees buckled. He collapsed into the chair, breath coming in short gasps. The judge immediately called a recess and summoned medical help. As Diddy was assisted out, his eyes never left his daughters, still seated, hands tightly clasped, tears silently falling. This unrehearsed, raw moment, a father unraveling, daughters stuck between love and conscience, revealed more than days of courtroom arguments ever could. In a private room, paramedics diagnosed Diddy with an acute anxiety attack. Court was adjourned for the day, with closing arguments to continue in the morning. Outside, media chaos erupted. The combination of Diddy's breakdown and the daughter's refusal to testify dominated headlines. Legal analysts agreed this wasn't something the defense could recover from. When your own kids won't defend you after hearing the evidence, one former prosecutor noted on live TV, that's a message the jury can't ignore. Online, the hashtags #JoinDiddy, #JoinTwins, and or Daughter Stand blew up globally. Many praised the young women's integrity, while others speculated whether outside influence played a role. The twins themselves remained silent as they left. One family friend told reporters, "This was the culmination of a long, painful process, of two daughters slowly coming to terms with complicated truths about the father they adored. They loved him, still do. But they could no longer pretend not to see what had become impossible to ignore." The impact of their decision reached far beyond the Combs family. Across the entertainment world, the twins' silent refusal to support their father in court became something larger than a personal act. It became a symbol of a cultural shift, a moment where family loyalty no longer outweighed morality, a reckoning where even the most powerful men could no longer expect blind loyalty from those closest to them. For young women especially, Jessie and Delilah became unlikely role models, teenagers who made an excruciating decision not out of pressure, fame, or privilege, but out of principle. In a brief statement through their attorney, the twins said, "This was a deeply personal decision that we never wanted to make. We love our Father and pray for healing for everyone involved. We ask for privacy as we continue our own healing journey. But it was what they didn't say that stood out. No apologies, no backtracking, no softening of the stand they took. They had made their decision, and they were standing in it. For Diddy, the legal consequences would come later at sentencing. But the personal consequences, those were already here. The empire he built, the legacy he hoped to pass to his children, damaged, maybe beyond repair, not just by court findings, but by the moral judgment of his own daughters. As one commentator put it, in trying to control everything and everyone around him, Diddy lost the one thing that mattered most, the trust and respect of his children. And no courtroom verdict could be more damning than that. 3 weeks after the verdict, as Diddy awaited sentencing, the twins were photographed at a women's shelter with their grandmother and godmother. They made a substantial donation in honor of their late mother, Kim Porter. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. 2 young women, choosing to honor their mother by standing beside other women, helping them find their voices and their freedom. That quiet act of charity was perhaps the most powerful statement of all, that from pain can come from healing. That choosing integrity over loyalty isn't betrayal, it's courage. And sometimes, the most loving thing a child can do for a parent is to stop protecting the illusion. If this story moved you and you want to stay updated on this case and others like it, make sure to like this video and subscribe. As this story continues to unfold, we'll bring you a thoughtful analysis of both the legal and emotional fallout. Because sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones that show the most strength.